Good afternoon. It is March 23rd, 2026. You're listening to a little column A, little column B, hosted by Will Alimonos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? Nice, deep breath, everybody. A lot of basketball. I think this might be the worst Monday of the year. We for sure have some sports, but when you watch it just for 4 days straight, it's hard to then just there's nothing. There's no more tournament games, but it is always nice little reset. Got some time, can go over some storylines. Gone from 68 down to 16. Got the Sweet 16, and I've been looking at it, and you know what? My team's in it. Is your team in it?
My team's in it.
Your team's in it. That's awesome.
My team's been in it a lot. We generally get this far. I don't need to worry about this part. It's getting past this that is a little trickier.
Not just your team, I would say your conference is in it. Is this the NCAA tournament, or is this the Big Ten tournament?
I'm very excited at the success of some of the other teams, but we kind of knew that coming in. We respected Michigan State. We obviously showed respect to Michigan. A lot of these other teams went back and forth with each other. I would compare it a little bit more to the SEC last year, where we had to crown someone, but really ultimately they all just beat the hell out of each other the whole season. And I don't know if they were, that much more than a couple baskets better than one another. I think that's similar, and I'm encouraged by all that as a Michigan State fan, banking a lot of this as in, well, we beat that team, or we were in that game against that team, and they seem to be taking care of some of these other conferences pretty well. So I'm encouraged by the success of it. It means absolutely nothing, though. The matchups are the matchups, and sometimes it's better and sometimes it's worse. Maybe you might be better off playing some of these Big Ten games also.
It's funny how it can play out, where the different years and how the season goes and the expectation, and then once you get into the tournament, as we always say, anything can happen. And then we have to kind of go back and judge it a little bit, where there's definitely been times in the past, 3 or 4 years where it's been ACC down year for the conference, not very good. And then the tournament rolls around and, you look at the Sweet 16, it's like, I thought this conference was down. 4 ACC teams are in it. And, there's only 6, total, where this year it was supposed to be the ACC was up, and it did not go well. It did not go well for the ACC.
Well, I suppose while we're talking conferences, we're going to do some picks with the remaining teams. We'll do a little recap of anything that kind of caught our attention that we kind of have to talk about of the first couple rounds here. But with all that kind of in mind, do you think we got too many big schools remaining? I've heard some people talk about the death of the Cinderella. And while I do understand all of that, I felt more rewarded by the quality of games I got out of the good teams. And I'm excited for the quality of games I have left. Is it exciting to watch somebody get sabotaged? Yeah. But do I ultimately just want the craziest, best basketball game possible? Yeah, and I think we're getting that. So I'm not reading into the seeding too much. I think we did a really good job seeding. Is there anyone you thought was completely misseeded and kind of came out of nowhere?
Yeah, Siena. They probably should have been a 5 seed.
That sounds a little personal. I think the answer is Texas, actually. Is the one that kind of came out under. They were in a playing game. Take care of business against Gonzaga. Take care of business against BYU. We'll get to that a little bit more over there. But I'm not. Again, that's not like a small school either. That's just a lower seed. I'm not worried about all of this. Do you think this is something we should be worried about? Do you miss some of these smaller name schools being around?
Well, it is funny that Texas is, the plucky underdog. Where it's like, this is Texas. I mean, it's not football exactly, but this is the team that has made it. But I don't think that they were underseeded going in. I think that I think it was correct that they were in, but to have to play their way in made sense. I mean, if you look at their schedule, they lost 5 of their last 6 games. They lost in the first round of the SEC tournament. So this is not a team trending in the right direction and thinking they're going to make moves. I think it was more, you didn't like BYU more than you liking Texas. So I don't think that they were necessarily underseeded. I think that they have stepped up to the plate for sure.
Do you miss the Cinderellas? Or are we going to be just fine with what we got?
I think things have changed very quickly with NIL and with transfers opening up. And so I think that basing 1 year off of, or maybe 2 years off of, there's no more Cinderellas. I think it's too fast. Let this play out for a little bit. 5 years, a decade, and then see if this has completely gone away. But I think a lot of times we compare this year to every year previously, like all combined. Where it's like, oh yeah, normally there's more upsets, and it fluctuates. Some years there are, some years there aren't. But we just like flatten it all in our mind, and you don't really remember. It's like, oh, that was in a 5-year stretch. That these are all these like huge upsets that you're thinking of. These weren't all in the same tournament, and I think that it's cool to have some of the upsets first round. It's definitely exciting, and wow, didn't expect that to happen. And you get to learn about some school you've never heard of. But I am more on the side of I want to see the best basketball, and from the best, I want to see flukes. So at the next level, I'm not missing the Cinderellas.
I mean, who's really crying about seeing these heavy hitters go against each other? It's St. John's versus Kansas. We're mad that that's not Northern Iowa. It's exciting, but I also feel like we got rewarded with the same thing. We got some really good games out of all of it, and that's all we want. It's fun when nobody got a perfect bracket anyways. We're all acting like everyone's bracket is safe and that they nailed all of this. Like, nobody knows what's going on.
There were still upsets. Actually, that was one of the ones I picked High Point in my upset for the West. It was the only one I got, but I got that one. The other ones, some of them I was way off, but that was a popular one. I didn't pick it in my bracket because I thought it was too popular, but I picked it on the podcast for that region.
I got some victory laps. So we get through each bracket here, I'll do a quick little victory lap on some things. Some things I just listen to the podcast. I'd like to think you follow through and maybe you got rewarded like I did. Let's start in the East region here. You mentioned Siena kind of coming out of nowhere and that they probably should have been a lower seed. Boy, was this a competitive game. This was a real scare. You get a little bit of breathing room, but you struggle throughout the entire game. They're making every shot, something I don't think they did at all the entire season. You're unable to make shots. It's something that probably didn't happen. And I know the injury things are all piling up and the excuses are just kind of written for you. But even with these injuries, you've shot a hell of a lot better on average. This was a real panic. You take care of business the next round, but let's focus a little bit on this first game here, because I thought this was one of the most exciting things that happened in the first round, was that the 1-1 was really in a bad position for 90% of this game.
Yes. All of the things that you said, unexpected, just completely unexpected. You're going in, or I'm going in, and it's the early in the afternoon on Thursday, but it's the 16-1, and I'm expecting it's a 28-point line, and we score the first couple of buckets, and it's like, all right, cool, we're gonna cruise. The Wisconsin High Point game was going on at the same time. I was looking at it going, all right, Duke will jump, comfortable lead. I'll be able to just have that on the, I'll be able to turn the sound off on that and kind of focus, because we'll see if High Point, can pull this off. And then I was in the fight for my life. I mean, I think it's reasonable as a 28-point favorite to think that you're going to win. And then it wasn't just we're not going to cover. It was, we're down 11 at the half, and we don't look good at all. I was trying to think, like, the best way to put it is, throughout the day is, like, it's Duke basketball, 16 seed. We're going against them. Like, we're the Ferrari, and we've been a Ferrari all year, and we are just cruising, and we're fast, and we're going past everybody, and it's against like a really good team. You can get tripped up a little bit, or you hit a bump. All right, that happens. But it was like all of a sudden you have this nice Ferrari, and then the wheels just all fall off. Siena has one of the worst 3-point shooting percentage teams in the country, and they're just hitting all of it. But it wasn't just 3-pointers. It was like then the defense wasn't working, and then we couldn't hit 3-pointers, and then midway through they go on a 10-0 run, and then it's just every time it's like, why isn't this working? What is happening? And it was just it was like all facets of it. And coming out, we're able to make the run early in the first half, and thought, okay, we'll jump on them. We'll just like go away. But then they fought. And there was, there's one specific play where I can't remember exactly what the score was, but I think it was like they were up 5, or it's just like a couple possessions. A guy goes in, he biffs the dunk, they get the rebound, they biff the next dunk, and then Evans comes down and he's able to dunk it for Duke to make it I think it was a 1-score game at that point. But it's like that seemed like the defining play right there. They should have made the dunk. It was just, you missed 2 dunks. Like, how often does that happen? For sure, there's missing 2 starters, but that's not an excuse against the 16 seed. That could be an excuse later on in the tournament, but it can't be an excuse right now. And it's not just hey, you lost, your season's over. It's you're going to get mentioned with Purdue, with Virginia. It's not a group you want to be in. It's you lose the 8-9. It's not great, but the show goes on. That loss that is talked about the rest of the weekend, and so I was very glad Duke was able to get their act together, dust himself off, and squeak out a 6-point lead or a 6-point win against mighty Siena, and just move on. But I was in a hole. I was in a deep hole trying to fight my way out of it. But as a college basketball fan, you on the other side, that High Point Wisconsin game is going on. There was some other craziness going on, including this Siena Duke going down. Was that the most fun? Maybe not like an individual like basketball moment, but just like segment, hour, half hour, whatever it is of like the whole weekend.
I had the volume on multiple games, and that was the only moment the whole weekend where that was possible. It felt like the rest of the weekend, everything kind of took its time, or it took its turn more often. It was a little bit more spaced out, and you had time to focus on the thing you had to focus on. But this was a moment where everything was happening at the same time, and I was worried I'm not gonna be able to keep up with this. It's too early, and we got like 4 more days of this. It was super exciting. I really thought Duke might lose. It really felt like that. And I'm not worried about them anymore. I think they'll be just fine. They're going to face off against St. John's on Friday. But boy, was it a legit scare. And when you just can't put the ball in the basket and you're shooting poorly and the other team is making shots suddenly look easy, you're just powerless. It was.
And
you're
just watching. You're watching the clock, and it's just, all right, we're going to turn around. We're going to go on a run. We're going to go on a run. We're going to go on a run. And then it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And now it's double digits, and it's still double digits. Duke hasn't been down like double digits very often at all. This is the first time a 1 seed was down double digits at the half in the history of the sport. It's not a good record. I don't think that you are alone in saying that was a legitimate scare.
Good thing you won every game you won. You might have lost if you were any lower of a seed. I mean, you're the highest seed you could possibly be, 1 of 1. If you were 2 of 64, do you think you'd be at home right now?
I don't know. Maybe Siena was misseeded. Maybe some of those 15s would have been better.
I think the more scary thing is you're looking around and where's the other ACC teams? Who else survived? Is anyone else left?
Nobody. Nobody's left. Just us.
All right, we could talk a little bit more about St. John's fun game against Kansas. It's just fun. Everything about this was fun. I thought it delivered. I thought Kansas kind of sneaking back into this game, making it a game, having Peterson be the only thing that's working on Kansas, and St. John's just frustrating everybody. But then the coaches, we'll talk a little bit about the post game. And what stood out on this one, because this is a 67-65 finish that felt like a classic.
Absolutely, especially a legitimate buzzer beater. You don't see that very, very often. The legit ball is in the air, and to make it to the Sweet 16 in this big 4-5 matchup, Hall of Fame coaches, and I think it was really the Kansas flurry at the end to tie it up, where it looked like, all right, St. John's has got this, and then all of a sudden they don't got this. they do not have this, and it was headed towards an all-time meltdown. And I was shocked when Darling, the point guard, he's the one that drives in, lefty going right, finishes. That was his only bucket of the day. He was 0 for 4. Just the press conference afterwards, Pitino said he called his own number, which you win, that looks good. You lose, you go, what are you doing drawing up the play for the guy that hasn't scored? You got Zuby, you got Bryce. You're not going to those guys. I thought Kansas did the right thing fouling. They had fouls to give. It's a little bit different in college than in the NBA. My problem, or I would say the main problem everybody had, was that they fouled too early on the first. It was either the first 1 or 2. All right, fine. Yep, that's fair. What I would like to happen is, I get you are going to foul, but you don't have to make it so blatant. Don't just grab them up. Actually try to steal the ball, because then it's a small percentage. What is it? A 5% chance, and you're doing this 3 times. So then it comes up to a 15% chance that maybe you get a steal, and then you get a shot to score and win this game rather than just this kind of like delay tactic.
I was okay with it. I think it was all about preserving clock and the idea that if they did score and they were to continue to play this foul game, they weren't going to have time to foul 4 more times. They kind of had to get that over with now when there was, 12, 14 seconds left. I thought it was okay. They could have been a little bit more aggressive on it, but I was fine playing it safe because it really wasn't a strategy in that moment. It was more of protection of down the road. And I think it would have worked.
I just thought you could have trapped.
Yeah, but what if you screw up? What if they get out of it and like you aren't able to stop the clock? What if, all right, well,
you try to trap, then they throw it out. As soon as they throw it out, boom, then you foul.
This is worry once you get the double team that you are now man down if they break this.
I think it was a risk that I would have been willing to take, knowing that you had 3 fouls. It was 3 or 4 fouls. I think it was three fouls to give.
Did this game change your opinion?
And I think the press would have forced them to take more time, because then you're passing. They got to make a couple passes, and then at any point you could still foul, and then it's way in the backcourt. Because every time they foul, they got a little closer, a little closer.
Knowing the way it all played out, they probably could have tried to kill more time. But like I said, I think when they initially started this strategy, I think they were trying to save as much time, thinking we're going to foul, we're going to need to give ourselves some time, and then we're going to have to foul again, knowing we can only score so many points, and if everyone makes the free throws, that's what we need. We need more time. So
I didn't think that was the case.
Yeah, but now knowing the way it all played out, it was like they
thought
ran
they were
a play
playing for overtime.
They scored miraculously on a guy that hadn't scored all day on his offhand on a challenging layup, where if anyone else leaves their guy, they're open and they probably hit the shot from there. I mean, what did you want to happen? You think somebody should have left to help on this layup? I thought it was a pretty challenging layup. You kind of live with it. You don't want to foul.
No, you can't foul. Sorry, it's a tie game. You can't foul. I think it was just good. It was good by St. John's to go to the hoop. I think a lot of times guys just settle for a step back 3 because they're comfortable with taking that, know they can get the shot off, and to actually go to the hoop and then there's a chance you get fouled. It's not really the way we want it to end with the referee making the decision. I just think earlier on, like I said, doing the traps, trying to actually steal the ball and not just fouling, just blatantly.
Will they defeat Duke on Friday? 7:10 p.m.
I still feel good about what's going on with Duke. Very interesting. They played so poorly this past week that their odds for winning the national championship have gone down. It's only 1%, but that's really hard to do. That once you've gotten through 2 games where anything can happen, that you've made there's a less of a chance, but that's how poorly it was played. I am interested. St. John's doesn't really take a lot of 3-pointers and don't really make a ton of 3-pointers, and they made 11, shooting 31%. So I'm just interested to see what happens. Where Bryce Hopkins went 6 for 9, and he's not really exactly known as a 3-point shooter. So interested if this is something that they've been working on, or is this a variance situation where next game, which I hope is that he goes 1 for 10, but Duke, we talked about the Siena game. The first half, the TCU game was pretty close, but Duke just took care of business in the second half. Gongba came back. He came off the bench. There was talk today. Foster has a outside shot to play on Friday. I don't think he'll play. I think this is more just keeping him in the news. It might even be a lie to him, saying, yeah, if you keep doing the right thing, yeah, maybe you'll get to play. And just something that, now Rick's got to think about. All right, what do we do if Foster's in there? But I think Cade's been playing great. I think he's been stepping up. And I think I had mentioned this, that Gongba was a much bigger piece of this than Foster was, not necessarily because of them specifically, but because of we just don't have another 7-footer in the back we could bring in. We do have Cade. We have an athletic point guard we can bring in that we can make work.
St. John's is very physical. One of these teams is going to ultimately be in foul trouble, but I don't think they can shoot the way you guys are shooting. Now, you haven't been the hottest shooting team to begin with, so it's a little hypocritical to say, but it was very unexpected. The guy that you said made a bunch of shots for St. John's, I think he's a decent shooter, but I don't think he's a good enough shooter if you were to actually put him in the game plan as a shooter you wanted to focus on, that he's still going to get any of those shots off. I think you can take that away. and they were ultimately trying to force him to do those threes, and he just burned them. And I think if you want to take away those threes, you just don't give it to him, and I don't think he'll shoot anywhere near that. You'll be fine, but like I said, the foul trouble is a real factor in this. One of these teams is going to be in massive foul trouble because somebody's going to strike first, and the next person is going to be a battle the rest of the day. And the refs are
That
just
Duke TCU game was physical.
Yeah. All right. So we both got Duke on that one. The other side, we have Michigan State versus UConn. Both these teams, I'd say for the most part, took care of business in the early rounds. Nothing really to recover or talk about there. But who do you like in the matchup?
I would like to say something. I was so mad. I was so mad because your game started while mine was still very much in doubt. And then I peek over and think, they might struggle, a little bit here. They're the 3 seed, 14, probably a little more challenging than the 16 seed. It just immediately, you're all over them. You didn't even need to watch the game. You just had a nice, easy Thursday afternoon. I'm gonna fight for my life, and you just, could have taken a walk. It was nice and breezy for you, and so I did not like that. Didn't like it at all.
Michigan State has struggled against UCLA. I can't exactly explain it. I don't know what UCLA is exactly good at, but they managed to get out of the first round. I thought they were going to put up a little bit better of a fight against UConn. They did not. I feel good about Michigan State, though. We got a little sloppy in the last game with the ball, but it also felt like we knew we were the better team. This is going to be an interesting one where the Connecticut team is good. I can't deny it. I tried to deny it in my bracket by just having them out in the first round. And Furman, similar to Duke, but that might be the best challenge they get all rounds here is from Furman. But who you got in this one?
Well, I don't want UConn to win. We said it last week coming in. At least they're in the same bracket as us, so we can control our own destiny. I'm definitely concerned. Hurley, this is only his third time that he's been to the Sweet 16, but the other 2 times he has won the championship. And then if you go farther back, the last 4 times that UConn has made the Sweet 16, they won a national championship. So they're going to have to go through you first. Hopefully, if you guys can't take care of it, Duke will be the one to also, get a shot at them. Not really looking for some sort of Big East championship rematch, but I'm leaning towards Michigan State. I don't think this team is nearly as good as the UConn teams from the past, not last year, but from the past early championship years. So I don't think you have to be concerned that you're gonna get blown out. It's just a matter of Hurley's a good coach. He's gonna come in with a real game plan, and Michigan State can sometimes not have an offense. And so if it's planned against in a good way, just all of a sudden it's a rock fight. And that's sometimes what you guys want, but you just the scoring just can't just go away for too long.
I think there are things both teams are going to be able to take away from each other, and there's not really much else left after that. So this could be a rough rock fight, as you mentioned. I like Michigan State, but huge bias here. Victory lap of the East here. You mentioned Caden. I thought we were going to learn his name. Caden Boozer had a great game. I thought Caden Boozer was responsible for winning the Siena game. Quick little victory lap for that. Also, Kansas is out. I think I crossed them off pretty early in the year. Take a quick little victory lap for that one as well. Moving on. Any victory laps for you? Anything else you called all year?
Duke's in the Sweet 16. Survive in advance.
On to the South region, where we are going to have Iowa versus Nebraska on Thursday. Iowa, of course, taking down Florida, the number 1 seed of this region. An exciting game as well. I think this has been a fantastic. The weekend was great. I'm fine with it. I love what we got. I'm excited for what we have left. This was something I actually had on my bracket because Florida was a team I'd crossed off. So quick little victory lap for all that. Is this the biggest?
You should take a big victory lap for Florida, because you said they were not a real title contender when they started to struggle in December, and you stuck with it. And then as it got to February, they were hot. And clearly, they became a 1 seed, and you never relented. I asked you every week, and you stuck with. I don't think it is. I don't think. I think their backcourt is weak, and I don't think the Iowa win was a complete fluke. Iowa was up double digits in the first half, and then took a little bit to hold on. Took some theatrics and some miracle a little bit down the stretch, but if you're up by 10 points, it means you're legit.
Sturts is good. He's exciting. He didn't even play well. I'd like to see him play a little bit better. It was way more exciting to watch him make shots than just miss everything that entire game. They're going to be matched up with Nebraska, who defeated Vanderbilt, who defeated McNeese.
Half court, dude.
It looked good. And you know what's crazy? That wasn't even the first time he missed.
It was all the way. It couldn't have been closer to going all the way down. I mean, there's some pictures, and you would assume that was a good basket. Really tough for Vanderbilt. I mean, that game just in general, going back and forth, and whatever team lost, it was going to be tough for. But yeah, it was very similar to the Butler Gordon Hayward shot, where it banks and you cannot get it any closer.
All right, who do you like in Iowa, Nebraska?
Nebraska.
I picked Nebraska as well. What I was able to do in being able to control certain possessions, and there's definitely an ability that I don't think you're going to be able to blow them out. And I don't think Nebraska, while they are playing well, and I do think they're a good team, I don't think anyone's going to take Iowa out easily. So this isn't going to be, I think it's going to be tight. I don't know what the line is, but I imagine it's pretty close. But I have Nebraska as well.
I think Iowa came in with a great game plan. You know, Florida's an enormous team, and it just seemed like Iowa was able to get these backdoor cuts. It just like the offense they were running, and when you watch it, I just know what Florida did all year. But then sometimes it just when a team just runs their offense just so well, and I don't know if it's like a bad matchup or exactly what it was, but it just. Seeing it just that it seemed like Florida was just a step slow, and even like towards the end of the game, it was like a paint pass, and the guy just on Florida just got caught watching the ball, and the guy just cut right behind him.
It's enough of a Cinderella for me. I'm excited. I want to see what more we can get out of Iowa. It's also fun to see Nebraska, who hasn't had a win before, make a lot of noise right now. They're right there. On the other end of the bracket here, we're going to have Illinois versus Houston, a little bit more chalk. I wouldn't say there's an exciting matchup previously from here, but a hell of a matchup that I'm excited to see. This is two very ranked KenPom teams, and Thursday, 10:05, late start. Who you like, Illinois, Houston?
This is a tough one. This is a tough one. This is to make sure you stay awake for this one, because Houston, they were a 1 seed for a good chunk of the year, and then they kind of slipped a little bit. And then they got into the tournament and said, "Hey, you guys remember us? Because we don't ever stop playing hard, and we don't care how much we're ahead by." And they did not have any sort of, I don't know which way this game is going to go. And Illinois on the other side also came in and said, "Oh, tournament time? Yeah, we got that." And it was 2 snooze fests of a game, and now you're going to have these 2 Titans go head to head. I think this has really opened up for both these teams, with Florida being knocked out, that your path to the Final Four just got a little bit easier. I mean, you got to make it through this game. I'm gonna lean towards Houston. I definitely have Illinois, at least in one of my brackets, going to the Final Four. But I just think Houston has the experience from last year. They're used to being in tough games, and I think they're just going to be a little bit more physical of a team than Illinois is. I
think that's the safer pick. That being said, there's something about having a team that just has a good offense. And Illinois' offense, I think, is a little bit more reliable. And while I think I like everything that Houston does, there isn't a lot to dislike about all of it. There are games that they just somehow lost throughout this entire year, and this feels like one of them. So while I picked Houston to advance in all of my brackets, I feel a little bit better about Illinois just having that offense and just having that ability to score. Because I don't think Houston, when the game really gets down to it, which they haven't played a tight game over the last couple here, is going to be able to close this out. And I'm just going to like the scoring odds for Illinois a little bit more. But boy, this should be a good matchup. This is the KenPom 4 and the KenPom 6 with the KenPom Florida 5 out. So these are some of the 2 best teams remaining getting matched up already. Should be one hell of a game. Moving on to, or anything else here from the South? Any victory laps you want to take?
Just, mentioned it. Iowa beats Florida. There will be no repeat champion this year.
All right, moving on to the West region, where Arizona is still on top, and they will be facing Arkansas. Arkansas had a little bit more of an adventure getting there than the kind of chalky Arizona. Where to start with the Arkansas comeback here? They They take on Hawaii. They take care of business there. The High Point game, I feel like that was a good game. High Point has the crazy game against Wisconsin. High Point just refused to lose that game. It seemed like it was over. It seemed like Wisconsin had done everything they could take, took every single punch you possibly could take, and still lost. But what a fun heat check at the end there. That's probably one of the better moments of the tournament so far.
What are your thoughts on Acuff? From not for what he could do in the NBA. I mean, for right now, when you're watching this Arkansas team,
he's a lot more control of the game than I expected it, and his ability to score is something not every team has. It's very much just him. I don't think he gets a lot of help. I think he has talented teammates, but what is the chemistry between all of these teams? Like it seems like it's a lot of individual stuff, which is not unusual for a Cal coach team, but they're going to be facing Arizona. I think that's where the talent is going to look a little bit more at eye level, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get away with it. I think some of the bad habits are going to come out, and some of the Arizona physicality and defense is going to get to him. But boy, man, X Factor says he can do whatever he wants against anybody, and until we say otherwise, maybe this is his league to give away. He could easily beat Arizona. I don't think that's like impossible.
I think Arkansas was able to play Hawaii and High Point, and I mean, High Point, like you said, really stuck around, and they were clearly the better team in both, and were able to get away with this. But Arizona is all the way for real, and I think they're going to have a real plan for Acuff, because that guy does not play defense. I don't know if he knows how to play defense. It was for sure cherry picked a little bit, but I was watching some videos, and it's not even so much of an effort of just not even close to being in the right spot. And I think they've been able to get away with it for right now. But I think that the trade off of him being awesome and really elite on offense, I think Arizona is going to target him on defense, and that's going to be Arkansas's downfall.
He's rising in my draft stock, though. There's just an ability to
He's perfect for the NBA. Everybody's going to love him. Guy that puts the ball in the hoop, doesn't play any defense, and everyone can just point and go, "Wow, look how good this guy is."
Arizona
not going to be on a winning team. He won't be on a winning team in the NBA.
I'm not ready to make those sort of decisions, but I think you'll have a hard time against Arizona. Arizona is very good. Moving on to the other side of this region here, we're going to have Texas versus Purdue. Take a quick little victory lap on Texas beating BYU. Had that locked in before it was even Texas. Any new thoughts on BYU? Could we just? I don't need to say I was right, but it seems like they were a little phony for the whole year.
I think Debanza still played really well. I think we're just talking about Acuff and being kind of the main guy, and I think obviously Debanza was the main guy. But 35 points in an elimination game, that's pretty impressive in college.
Purdue is just steady. I was worried they kind of got a little beat up just winning the Big Ten, but I think they're easily the favorite in this matchup. But Texas, it's hard to say anything you trust about them. I mean, their best two games were the last two games, and that's got to help. But there's a whole lot of reasons to not pick them, and a whole lot of reasons to pick Purdue. Is there any way this doesn't go chalk?
I'm going to go with Purdue. Braden Smith, All-American, was able to set the record for assists. I think that is going to help Purdue. I think as much as he would like and the team would like, that has to be in the back of your mind somewhere as it's coming down to that you don't know how many games you're going to have left to get to this record, and just getting that out of the way. Not think, even if you don't, it's not in the front of your mind, it's got to be in the back of your mind a little bit. So just getting that out of the way, now you can just play basketball. And I think that Texas has had a nice little quote Cinderella run as the 11th seed, but this is where Purdue, I think, is just a much better team, and they're going to take care of business.
All right, moving on to the Midwest, we have Michigan versus Alabama. Alabama taking care of business against Hofstra. I know that was a popular upset predicted, and then it really had no issues battling Texas Tech. You don't even know if you could call it a battle. They're a hot team right now. Michigan's been Michigan. I think we've kind of crowned them most of the year. They've had a couple bumps on the road, but nothing in the tournament so far. Does Alabama actually have a chance? You mentioned Acuff not playing defense. This is a whole team that's not very interested in playing defense. Michigan very good at defense. How's this going to play out?
I think Michigan will be fine. I don't know. I haven't heard any news about Aiden Holloway in his situation, if he is going to come back or not. But I think even if he was to come back, I think Michigan is a better team. They've been the better team all year. Alabama, like you said, not really interested in playing defense. Was pretty surprised how thoroughly they beat Texas Tech last night. Last game of the weekend, and you're thinking, all right, what do we got left? What's the cherry on top? And it was the cherry on top was, all right, well, I guess I can go to bed because this is a 30-point game with 8 minutes to go, so this is over.
Yeah, I've been taking victory laps. That was a miss on Texas Tech. I would have thought in that sort of setting that Alabama that doesn't play any defense and just seems like there's clear weaknesses you should be able to take advantage of. I'm curious to see how Michigan does it, but Texas Tech did not have it, so that was a miss on me. I'm not worried about Michigan. Michigan will be fine. All right, moving on. Tennessee versus Iowa State. Is Tennessee a Cinderella at a 6? I don't know. They take out Virginia. They take out Miami, Ohio. I don't know. I can't say that this is what I had. I didn't think they'd get this far. So I suppose in my sort of standard, this is very surprising. That being said, they're kind of just a big physical SEC team, and if they hit the right matchup, they're just bigger than other teams. Are they going to be that much bigger than Iowa State?
I don't think so. I think Iowa State has looked good despite losing probably their second best player. Rolls his ankle real bad. Always tricky with the ankles, where you do get almost a week. I don't know if he'll be able to come back for this one, but I think they're able to handle Kentucky. I think they'll have a good game plan, and I think that Tennessee will play tough, but I'm going to take Iowa State.
I picked Iowa State to win the whole thing, so I think I got to pick them in this matchup. Going a little bit backwards here, they take on Kentucky. It's kind of tight in the first half. Not so tight in the second half. I was a little bit more comfortable. I was nervous about Iowa State. They lose the player early in the game. They play a 15 seed, and they have no issues with it without their best player in that game. Kentucky, on the other hand, their first round matchup against Santa Clara might be my favorite moment of the whole tournament. This was a back and forth of which there's some controversy. I don't know if you saw some stuff online. There's a delayed starting of the clock, where maybe if we start it where it should start, it gets pretty tight on seeing whether or not that last shot gets off. There's a timeout that clearly should have been rewarded to Santa Clara that just wasn't. That would have maybe gave them a chance to set up some defense and do something other than what they did do. Are any of these excuses enough to ruin what I think is the best moment of the tournament?
I think it was my favorite just pure basketball moment. It was the first game of Friday, so I'd just gotten up to your place. We're watching it. My dad's over. We're chatting, but then it's kind of getting down to, all right, this for real. We gotta stop chit chatting here and actually watch this. And the rare back-to-back double O's of that was a dagger. That Santa Clara shot up 3. Two something seconds left. We just saw the day before. Guy had 4 seconds and could barely even get it to half court. I disagree with both of the controversies that you mentioned. If you look at any of these, there's just like the same way it takes a certain amount of time for a player to get a shot off. It's not instantaneous when the clock starts. There's the physical, human that does it. So when it hits the hand, there's always a little bit of time. It just you don't see it very often. And as well as for the timeout, I think especially on a made basket like that, it's kind of a gray area. As soon as the opposing team gets the ball, you can no longer call timeout, even if even if they haven't passed the ball in. And so the coach has got to get right there. And I would much rather this situation of ball goes in, pretty much bang bang, gets in, goes, rather than, oh, hold on, there was a game, I think it was yesterday, where a shot was made and then neither team has a timeout, but the refs want to go look at the clock to see what it is. All right, let's stop the game. Let's do it. There's reviews all over the place. Less reviews, less stops. Play basketball, and you have this back-to-back in, it's less than 10 seconds of actual time and not over 3 minutes that it's piecemealed out to you.
It was a way more watchable product. I'll give you that. But I thought he should have got the timeout. I don't have a problem with the clock starting thing. I think you should be able to stop someone in any scenario and all that. It wasn't like they gave him 10 extra seconds here. All right, we're talking less than decimals here is what we're talking about of a delayed start time here. So you should still be able to get the stop. And that being said, I think the ref, I don't know, it certainly looks like he makes eye contact when he's just screaming timeout at him. And he's obviously got a million things going on, and he probably wasn't able to tell whether or not the ball was inbounded. But that shouldn't be that foreign of a scenario, and it's a lot of pressure on all the refs. But I would have gave him the timeout, and maybe we get a different result out of all this. I was really out on Kentucky for all this, so this was one where that was a big loss for me. I was all in on Santa Clara. All right, anything else for the Midwest region here?
Should we talk about the next game that Kentucky played?
The Iowa State game?
The Iowa State game. So it's kind of close at the beginning. Kentucky is not getting any calls. I think there were, especially to start the second half, I think there were 3 fouls on one possession, as well as I think they were in the bonus, quite possibly before the first media timeout, definitely before the second one. They were all the way up there. So Kentucky fans not thrilled about it, but I keep bringing it up. Pope makes it, wins the first game, but again, doesn't make the Sweet 16. Pretty much an up and down season. Now that you look at it in totality, not a good season for Kentucky. I think in this game, doesn't really make any of the adjustments. I don't think he ever really settled on what his rotation was. And again, give him a little bit of break with the injuries. But one of my biggest concerns for the Kentucky and for Pope is this year, there were multiple games that they got blown out in. Like, it seems like the players, just like they got to the end of the rope and they let go. And a team like Kentucky should be better, but also like there should still be fight like throughout the whole way. And it's not just something that I was seeing. It came up in the post game when they're interviewing some of the Iowa State players, and they mentioned it, saying, "Yeah, we kind of think Kentucky was one of those teams that if we could go out and we could get a lead on them, that they'll just fold." And so that it's like kind of obviously strengthening. It's like the bias that I have, but that seems like a coach issue, and so it'll be interesting because Kentucky fans they're not going to live with this for very long before they're going to say, hey, we got to be going to at least Sweet 16s. Like that, getting to the Sweet 16 shouldn't be like, oh, we finally did it after all these years. So now Cal has done it twice since he left, and it hasn't been the same.
I think this was a season where they just didn't have the chemistry. No 2 players played well with one another on this team. That's somehow a team that managed to be a 7 seed and win some decent games in the SEC. So on the one hand, there is no excuse they're Kentucky. On the other hand, I think the 2 guys that were out were the only 2 guys that could make sense of this really dysfunctional roster. Where was it? Cadence, the center, solves a lot of the defensive problems that they had all year, where none of the guys would have had to play defense, and Cadence is probably going to ultimately be in foul trouble the whole time, but he would have been way more of a rim protection for all the bad defensive plays they had. I don't know if it covers up enough, but it certainly covers up some of the issues they had. If you're a bad defensive team and you're missing your rim protector, you're just going to be a really, really bad defensive team. The scoring, the end of the game sort of stuff, I think Post was the only guy that really tried to run an offense, the only guy that really had any success doing a pick and roll for them, and they didn't have him. So, you're missing the guy that kind of is the Band-Aid for the defense, the only other guy that's interested in running the offense. Well, everyone else is a quality player out there, and deservingly so to be out there, but just not really playing well together and not playing together at all. I'm happy this season's over. I really enjoy watching Kentucky basketball. This season, I did not. This wasn't fun. I'm happy this is over. Just hit the rebuild button on all of this, because this just wasn't it. So I knew this wasn't it, though, early in the year, though. We didn't learn something in the tournament here.
I can agree with that. I think it's just adding to the firepower that the Kentucky fans that don't like Pope are just going to be able to add on, and it's not going in the right direction. As well as we talked about this, I don't know if it was like a month ago or so, is they have no recruits for next year. Not just no 5-stars, they have no recruits. And so I don't think this will necessarily be a Kentucky of old that, all right, this year didn't work, but we're getting, the one and dones are going to be gone. We got these 3 or 4 freshman phenoms that are coming in, a couple of transfer portal guys. Like, this is how we're putting it together. Like, this might be, either the guys that are on this team are coming back and they're going to have to run it back to some degree. Obviously, there'll be some transfer portal guys, or is this season were they not? Did they not enjoy this and they're going to transfer away, saying this is not what we thought we were signing up for?
It's still Kentucky. I don't think there's enough damage that they can't suddenly turn this back around. The only thing I'll say is, who's the candidate out there that's going to make them happy? Like, is there a name? Like, I hear this displeasure with Pope, and I heard the displeasure with Calipari for so long. And then I finally kind of gave in, was like, all right, Pope is finally a name that I at least am like, all right, that's worth interviewing. If you think that's better, if you think the history of all this, if you think it's trending in the right direction and you're just exhausted with the relationship you're in, just do it. But now we're just going to move on to the next guy and the next guy. Is that what we're supposed to be doing? I think they're better off just keeping Cal, and they should have just kept their mouth shut. But obviously, you want to be to this higher standard. I don't know who the candidate is out there that's ever going to reach this standard. I don't think that guy's out there. I think this is it. And they either got to trust the process and all this or force themselves to be Kentucky.
So you were saying that Kentucky fans should just say, yep, this is just what we should expect to be. Like, we're kind of above middle of the pack in the SEC conference, and then we go to the tournament, and if we can make the Sweet 16, that's a pretty successful year for us. That's where their expectation should be. Their
expectations could be wherever they want. Their ability to do anything about it is the coach. You think that they're going to find another coach that's going to have somehow a better ability? That's whatever. You think this guy's really struggling that much, and that this is the change you need to make, and that it's not some of the players you got and maybe some of the injuries you had. The only real miss in all this is that it was a weaker SEC after a super strong SEC last year. I feel like if you took last year's Kentucky team and you put it in this year's, it might be a little bit more successful. It was more of that the SEC and Kentucky both took a step back. It just made it feel like a big miss of a year. But I think that's a good SEC, though. I think there's some tough teams out there. I think a lot of these other teams lost to all these other teams, too. And it's not just pointing fingers on, well, they're supposed to win. They're supposed to be undefeated. You know, they can't, let's put Kentucky in the ACC. Let's see how many losses they have then.
I guess they can try.
You want to
I'll let them in. If it was up to me, I'd let them in. They can play in the ACC if they want.
All right. Maybe we got to put Duke in the SEC. You have been playing very Big Ten basketball.
I mean, just if you just look back at it, it's just they've not been successful in it. This Kentucky we're talking about, they haven't made a Sweet 16 in a long time.
It's not good. It's not easy though. I don't think you can just manufacture all this. I don't think you just say we're Kentucky and we're going to do this with all of this. I think every team that tries to do that, it's hard.
I get that. I get that, but I don't think that Kentucky fans are just going to go, well, we're pretty good, and it'd be crazy for us to just, try to get a new coach. And I think that it's different, but a little bit of like the Dallas Cowboys thing of like, all right, we did this for a little bit. This is unacceptable. We are going to go out and we're going to splash some cash and we're going to get somebody.
Maybe better off like this. Maybe we'll trust the process. I mean, do you think he's really going to be able to sink this so much that they can't get out of it? They won't be able to get big names in whatever years. I don't think you can hit reverse on this anytime they want.
Well, before we get too far, actually, I was wrong. They made the Sweet 16 last year.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to know some things I do have problems with in the tournament?
Yes, I have one thing.
I don't want more reviews. I'm with you on getting rid of the reviews, but we're missing this goaltending thing way too often. And it seems like the easiest thing that we can do, like the NBA does after the timeout. And if it's really tight in the game, we kind of do it on the spot. But this also isn't something that I want to stop and do a commercial break for. This is something that's like, all right, it was goaltending, take a look, bing, done. Like, it doesn't need five minutes. It needs
for sure. For the, like, until the under 4 timeout, then I think you probably have to, maybe take a look. But yeah, before that, yeah, take a look at the next timeout, and then you'll come back. And doesn't the NBA do this for? I'm not sure if it's for goaltending, but they'll definitely do it for reviewing if it was a 3 or a 2. Of like, yeah, don't take away from my basketball time. Take away, do this while the commercial is going on, and then when they get back and I look and see, oh, that was, it was 14-14 and now it's 14-12, and the announcer goes, oh, they reviewed it and wasn't goaltending, whatever it is.
Yeah, but I guess really what I'm saying is I don't want goaltending to be a challenge thing. I just want it to be a reviewable thing all the time. I think that's something we could just get from the sideline on the video and be like, oh, no, hit the backboard first, 2 points, keep it moving. And you don't even need to tell them now. We'll tell them in the next break. Like, just whatever was the call on the floor is the call on the floor. It doesn't change anything. You know what I mean? Like, just add the 2 points later if it hit the board first or not.
It has been. I feel like it has been coming up more this tournament than maybe I've seen during the year.
It's not costing anyone a game. I'm just saying if there are ways we can better this, that seems like an easy one. Like the NBA already does it. It's not that big of a change. If anything, it's correcting some of the little errors we're doing here. In a game that ultimately you lost by 2, and in the first half, it was clearly, I don't know how the ref is supposed to see it, is really what I'm saying here, too. They're keeping an eye on so many things. You have to be able to see it from the right angle to see if it hit the board first.
It's way up there.
They're nobody's underneath the hoop either. The camera angle you see is not where the ref is standing. Where the ref is standing is not an easy sight. So I want to correct that. I think that's an easy thing to correct. That's the only thing I want to change out of all this. We could talk a little bit about expansion, but you said you had an issue. What was your issue?
It's very nitpicky. I like the whole weekend. For a long time now, they've staggered the starts on Thursday and Friday, which is awesome. So, this year there's definitely the way games happened. It seems like there's a lot more of games ending at the same time, but nothing they can really do about that. It's Saturday and Sunday. What they've done on Saturday and Sunday is they have the first 2 games absolutely standalone. Okay, but we just had Thursday and Friday where we have like so many things happening at once. And then you just want to just like wean us off of that. But you gotta, I think we gotta start more of the games earlier. Saturday, all right, late games. But it's like on Sunday to have a game tipping off 10:10 Eastern, like that's crazy late. Where there's plenty of time in the day, and I get you want like the most in prime time and most eyeballs, but it's Sunday on a football Sunday. People are watching at 1:00 all the way through. This is the tournament. People are going to sit down. They're going to watch it. And it just seems like rather than have it 3 games at once, which people aren't going to be able to, or most people aren't really going to be able to watch all 3 at the same time. It's just spread it out. Just spread it out a little bit and have 2 games. And we could do it that way. And I think it's just like I said, it's nitpicky, but just make it a little bit better.
I don't think it's that nitpicky. In a league, probably the only league that has truly been conscious about the schedule and really listened and responded with it. You mentioned on the opening rounds, I think this is kind of the thing they should be most known for. And what I love the most about the tournament is the way they spread everything out. So to be so conscious about delivering your fan base what they want on the opening rounds and then kind of just abandoning it on the next day, I don't think it's that nitpicky. It's just like follow the same philosophy you had the opening round.
Especially, too, where now you are relying on 2 games to absolutely deliver. Where if you have 1 game start and then almost kind of right around halftime or maybe a little bit after is when the next game starts and kind of sequentially through. Well, now if you're watching that first game and it turns into a blowout, well, you got another game or you have like another game that's going to be very, very soon. So it's like, all right, cool. Where now you're going to have more. Obviously, you and I, we're plugged in. We're going to watch every single game all the way through. But you're going to have people that sat down, watched for a little bit, and then went, this is kind of a blowout, and then probably walked away. Where if they had another game to go to, I think they would have checked it out.
I think the more chaos you can schedule earlier, the more likely I am to continue watching because it's like gambling and you won something. You just want to gamble more. So like once you get an itch on that win on that first close game early in the day, I'm just waiting the rest of the day for that to happen again. Versus if it's the other way and one game not so great, one game not so great. All right, well I'm a little burned out now. I haven't gotten that reward yet, and I don't know if it's going to happen. And these games are just getting later. And if you're a normal person, Monday is coming up quick,
real quick.
All right, I'm hearing some rumors about expansion in this tournament. We'll talk about NBA expansion after it, but this is already an expanded tournament. We got a play-in game. To my understanding, there would be additional play-in games, which if we can get more schedules like Thursday and Friday where we got a game starting like every 45 minutes, I guess I'm all right with some sort of form of expansion. I'm just curious on Why do we want more of these teams? I feel like we nailed the amount. I feel like the quality we got out of all this, we have a decent amount of blowouts, a decent amount of close games. And if we just make this more deeper, we're just getting more blowouts. I don't think we're ultimately getting better games. It's going to happen inevitably, but are you worried the quality level isn't ready for it?
I get what they're trying to do is you get more teams, you can charge more to the networks, but I think you're gonna get the saturation point, and I think it's already those play-in games. It's a little bit like preseason football. You wait, you wait, you wait. You're all excited. And it's like, oh, we got football. We got football today. And then you turn it on, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. This is preseason. Like these are just playing games. Like, all right, yep, this is kind of cool, and you kind of keep an eye on it. You're kind of interested in the 11 seeds, and maybe some cool storylines in the 16s. But you're really okay. When's Thursday start? When's my bracket happening? When's this for real? And I think adding because I think they would add 4 more teams, so they would be triple headers on Tuesday and Wednesday, rather than just the double headers they are now. And then more coaches would be able to say, "Hey, look at us, we made it. We made it. Oh, look at us, we won a tournament game." But it's like, well, you want to play in to then try to win, and for sure, some of these teams will make it. But I think you're just most likely. I think it's just the way it is like you're you're getting the worst possible, not maybe the worst possible teams, but it's not like you're putting better teams in than the teams that are already in. So I'm against it. I think we have a great product. We have a great way that it is. I mean, the nitpicky part is like, hey, I'd like the scheduling to slightly change. Like that's the only thing. I mean, I was thinking about like some people were complaining, it's chalky. There weren't a ton of close games. It's like, yeah, sometimes that happens, but I mean, every game could be an absolute blowout. It could all go chalk, and I would still sign up the next year because you still have that. Hey, you're hanging out, you're eating food, you're watching college basketball during the day. You have a rooting interest in every single game, and that way, when the Cinderella does happen, it knocks your socks off.
I think the more days they take up, the more they devalue the good days. I like that those are warm-up days. I don't need those to be fake real days. You know what I mean? The first 4 are fine. I don't need any more of that. Those days, I mean, how many days do you want to take up of my time? I mean, I'm going to give you every inch of it, so that's probably why they feel the need to do all of this, is that I'm not going to say, no, you know what? I'm already committed, 14 hours on Friday and Thursday and Saturday and Sunday, but I want to do 8 hours on Tuesday and Wednesday also. I think at some point you're ruining the product here. I don't feel like it's going to be more of a reward. I'm not looking forward to having more of it.
As well as we've talked about this, that right before this, Thursday, Friday, the weekend and the week leading up, or maybe a little more than that, they have conference tournaments for every single conference. There's already play-ins for these. All you have to do, you have to win. Or maybe if you're in one of the bigger conferences, maybe you have to win a couple of games, and maybe that'll move you from off the bubble to on the bubble, and you'll have a chance. I don't think we need to be giving these teams another opportunity.
Well, I do think those conference tournaments where the best team, the number 1 seed in a lot of these conference tournaments, didn't win in these one bid leagues. That changed a lot of the Cinderella rooms here, where ultimately was the better team of that conference the whole year did not get into the tournament. I'm not saying they would have made some noise. There's a couple examples of all this, but I think it's like pick your poison. Do you want conference tournament Cinderellas or do you want March Madness tournament Cinderellas? It doesn't matter. It's like madness either way. But if you want the best of all this, you can't value one and not the other. Like the conference tournament, it either has to mean something or it shouldn't mean anything. If we're going to expand this tournament, I feel like you're really taking away what it does mean. That there's one spot, and that if you had a rough year the whole year, you still got a chance at it because your conference isn't that good. I kind of like that. I'm not going to like making more out of all this, but how many years before we got this triple header in the opening days here? 1 or 2 years?
I think it'll be there next year.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think they've been pushing for it. I think it was actually close this year, and they're just they're not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to stop it.
All right, quick coaching carousel. Some teams are out. Some teams are on the hunt. Anything you want to talk about for college coaches?
Well, Siena played so well that McNamara, going back to Syracuse, he's going to coach there. Kind of one of those stories of Oh, you mean that McNamara, the one from the Miracle Syracuse run? Like, yeah, he's a coach now. Like, yeah, why would he not be at Syracuse? So interested to see how that goes, kind of going, within the program. I think we've seen that work well and not work well. So I don't think that's got a known track record. We have Greg McDermott. He's retiring. 16 seasons. Coached his son. I think that the program has kind of been trending away. Only 61. So for a college coach, a little bit on the younger side. I don't know if you want to chalk this up to NIL and transfers, but probably not want to be considered an elite coach, but definitely a very good college basketball coach. So those are the officials, and then we have the rumors. It sure seems like UNC does not want Hubert Davis to be their coach anymore, but I I think they want to do it maybe in a nice way, or maybe they're hoping to not have to pay his buyout. So they're hoping he will take one for the team and say, "Hey, you know what? When this will be a mutual parting of the ways," but there is a lot of smoke there. He makes the Final Four in his first year, but after that, there was the kind of the debacle of start of the year at number one in the AP poll that doesn't even make the tournament, up 26 to VCU, and just one of the biggest meltdowns that you're ever going to see in the tournament. So yeah, a lot of smoke. Really interesting to see what happens there and who UNC looks for next, as well as Bill Self. He for like a few years now. I think it was like last year towards the end. It's like the season wasn't over, and like at a press conference, just kind of like, "Hey, well, I don't even know about these guys this year. Kind of more looking forward to next year." It's like that's a weird thing to say. And then at the exit interview, or the press conference after the St. John's loss, it did not seem like a guy that was kind of gung ho. And I wouldn't say that Kansas has not been good, but for kind of talking to Kentucky standards, for Kansas is like haven't won a conference tournament, haven't gone very far. I mean, they won a national championship like not that long ago, but for Kansas standards, it has not been all the way up there, and it's hard to tell if Self still wants to do this.
I thought this was one of his best coaching years. No one will give him credit. He essentially coached two different teams on two different styles, and both of them still moderately successful. I don't think they were true title contenders, but I was impressed with what he was able to get out of this year with the Peterson juggling and a team in a really good conference. There's some really good teams they were facing out there. They had some really good wins. A bumpy road for sure. I don't think they were supposed to beat St. John's though. I think the way it played out is kind of how I felt about it. I thought it was a toss up. I wouldn't be reaching for so many excuses other than I don't know if they were as good as they thought they were at the beginning of the year. And that's crazy though. Like you're just supposed to have these miraculous expectations at the beginning of the year and you have to live up to them. I don't know. I wouldn't make a change. I thought this was one of his better years. I wasn't so high on him in the past. They certainly had some disappointing years, but there's some clear success there. And I don't think you're doing better than them. I don't know why everyone thinks they're going to do so much better than these guys.
No, I don't think that this situation. I don't think this is a Kansas is going to get rid of Bill Self. I think Bill Self it might not be interested in coaching at Kansas anymore.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, I could see it. All these other guys are kind of that era moving on a little bit. NIL is a
I mean, you say that, but what is it? A quarter of the Sweet 16 is all I'm going to call it the old guys.
why does everyone want to get rid of these guys? These guys are great. Nothing wrong with that.
I don't think a lot of the schools are getting rid of them. I think it's more of the coaches. It's been the coaches that said, "Hey, we're done." They're old.
All right, anything else for March Madness?
I am excited for Thursday. Just gotta make it through a few days, and then we'll get some more basketball and really getting into standalone. It's gonna be high level basketball.
Are you going to be rooting for Michigan State or are you going to be rooting for Connecticut?
Michigan State. That's easy.
I will be rooting for Duke. I don't want to face St. John's.
Why don't you want to face St. John's?
I just think we match up better with you.
Oh, okay.
St. John's is physical. All right, you're going to find out. They got that animal down there, and you're going to find out. You're going to get a couple elbows, and I don't need that. I feel like that's the type of guy that's just going to get on Fears' short list, and then we'll see where that goes. And I don't need that. I think Duke will play clean for the most part, and that'll benefit Fears. I don't need St. John's dragging him down in the dirt because he'll get dirty. We don't need to rehash all that, but it's more of that. And I'm worried in this Connecticut game because I think they're going to try to. I'm worried Hurley is going to try and get into it with Fears. Like, I don't know what he's going to do on the sideline, but I think every time there's anything even slightly suspicious, it's like the spotlight on this guy. It's his fault. I'm not here to defend it, but it's a weakness that's just it's going to come out at some point, and I don't know which matchup. I think it's less likely to come out against St. John's, and for that reason, I'd rather play Duke. I don't know if we're even going to get through UConn though, so like that's
one thing at a time.
But I was more of just saying if you were going to be rooting for me, and now I'll be rooting for you. So we could play friends for a little bit longer now, and then
for a little bit longer, yeah.
And then we'll see.
For a show, a possible showdown, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, for a little column A, a little column B, real battle here. Where one of one Duke, your team here that struggled against Siena versus I believe you called us just a 4 seed. You were a 3 seed. But,
3 seed, yeah, huge difference there.
Just a 4 seed. All right, moving on to the NBA. Something that we talked about a couple weeks ago and really could have brought this up at any other point, any of the past weeks. It just didn't get a chance to take a lap on it. But the NBA fights, Zach, have not gone away. You said they would. You said they wouldn't have this. We said this peaked and that we were just a couple of incidences, unlucky, just happened in a row. Another NBA physical altercation here, a couple other suspensions. They're not real hockey fights, but they are altercations, and I don't think they're going away. Is this the league we want?
Yeah, little snippiness. Yeah, I like it.
I think so too. Nothing truly bad has come of it, and I don't think anything truly dirty has happened. It's just competitive juices, right? Just get the juices flowing.
Juices flowing. It's a long season, and I think that there's going to be a whole bunch of people that sat around and watch college basketball all weekend that are going to turn on the NBA, and they're going to go, what is this? What is this? I mean, the guys make all the shots, but like there's no juice here at all. So if the guys are chirping, there's a little bit of shoving, a little bit here back and forth. I think that's what people want. They want people to care. If the players care, then the fans are going to care.
The big news around the NBA is that there was going to be a vote for NBA expansion. It sounds like they're circling a expansion team in Seattle as well as Las Vegas. Nothing locked in yet, but it does appear the direction is inevitable. Lots of opinions on all of this. I don't really have a problem with it. Simmons seems to think it's 2 more teams that we're going to have a hard time watching, and I'll argue that it just can't let those owners get it. I think all of the new owners that have gotten these teams care so much about this that those aren't the teams that are bad. The teams that are bad, the teams that are buried, the teams that aren't turning things around have owners that don't care about it. And those aren't the new owners. I think the new owners back this thing up, and they're the crazy owners. The new owner syndrome Simmons talks about all the time that just makes a crazy trade because they're just so juiced up to do it. I don't think those are sinking their teams. I don't think those are the tanking teams. So I'm not against all this. I don't think we're going to get rewarded with 2 more teams that are tanking for years. I think we're going to get rewarded by 2 teams that are going to try to turn this around. Imagine getting lapped by an expansion team. I think that's more likely to happen. So I'm not poo-pooing this as much because I also don't think there's anything we can do about it. I think this is coming. Are you for it or are you against it?
I think it's inevitable. With the tournament expansion, I'm against it. I don't think this really helps or hurts me kind of, personally. I think that these teams are crazy expensive now, and people are still interested at paying a crazy price to get in. So the NBA from a business would be silly to do it, as well as for labor. Well, now you just added 30 new spots. There's not a lot of NBA spots. So if you're able to do that, I think the players are going to be interested in it. Obviously, it's going to be a little bumpy to deal with expansion, and there'll be an expansion draft. But for content, expansion draft is awesome. You can do a preview of the expansion and then what actually happens, and you can nitpick that. I mean, that's content gold, right there. So I'll definitely be interested. I don't think that it's the owners that don't care that are the ones that are tanking. I think it's the bad owners, or because I think sometimes, OKC did it. I think every franchise. The Spurs, I don't think you think of them as bad owner franchise. They tanked to get Wemby. They tanked at the right time, where other teams don't tank at the right time, or they just don't get as lucky with the lottery balls. So I think that they're with 2 additional teams. Obviously, it's harder. That's another team vying for a playoff spot. I think it's more to do with how do we disincentivize tanking And it really doesn't matter if there's the same amount of teams or two new teams. It's getting rid of that more than a team. It's you got to fix the tanking part, not the amount of teams part.
We could address that. We could try a million things to do it. I don't think there's any particular cure, but I'm with you that I don't think that cure is altered by the number of teams here. I think that's still a difficult challenge, and it's not going to be any easier or any harder with two more teams.
The only thing I wonder is if you could. There's been talk for a long time from kind of more people outside of the league of saying, "Hey, there's too many games," and so if you are the NBA, could you say, "Hey, we're adding two new teams," and so for the for the package that the media guys are getting, say, "Hey, we have this new inventory, but because of that, we are going to reduce the number of games that everybody plays, so the total stays the same or stays close to the same, but every team plays less games."
It's going to happen. I don't think
That'll be less games?
No, I mean, we're going to get expansion. I don't think we're ever going to get less games.
But that's the only thing that I'm saying is like your total for the league games, if you add two more, you could reduce it and keep the same total number.
Sounds very economical. Makes way too much sense. They won't do it.
Probably.
I've heard some other controversies on the physical locations of all this. Seattle seems to not really have any issues with anyone. Seems to make the most sense. They had a franchise before. Vegas, on the other hand, there seems to be a little bit of pushback. And while I've heard pushback, I haven't heard anyone volunteering new cities. And I just think Vegas makes more sense than anywhere else. I mean, Simmons made fun of San Diego, but I'd be for that. I think the San Diego would be a great location. I'm sure the Clippers and Lakers would hate it, but maybe one of them should move to San Diego. I don't have a problem with the location thing. Did you have somewhere else you'd prefer them go, or did you have a real reason against Vegas?
It seemed like those were the two, and it wasn't even going to be really up for discussion. It's like, oh no, that's where it's going. That's kind of been the discussion for a while. It's very interesting how it's like not that long ago that the thought was you can't have sports in Vegas. Like now you're gonna have players where there's gamblers. Like that's not gonna be a good look. And Vegas, that's where people go to party. Well, that's gonna be a real mess. And it didn't really take that long from that to flip, where now there are multiple franchises in other sports in Vegas, as well as now at least half the country, probably more. You can gamble from your phone from anywhere. So it's been a very fast turnaround there.
If you didn't want to do expansion, is there a team you'd want to relocate? Because I've heard some other teams kind of get called out right now. Memphis and New Orleans seem to be a little bit more on the bubble than I think they were. I don't want to lose these franchises. I thought the whole Charlotte OKC thing, moving around all that so many different times was not really good. I think we're better off if we keep teams where they need to be for as long as we can. Would you want to move any of them though?
Not really. I don't really know exactly what jumps out, as well as the owners kind of you're owners for a reason. You gotta get to make the decision, and I think it's pretty coastal elite of me, to be a fan of a franchise that has been so historic and has been established for so long to go and look and go, yeah, I don't even know if Memphis likes the Grizzlies. Like I've heard a couple of things, like yeah, they should probably move. It's like, well, you know what? I'm up here in Connecticut. I have no idea what's going on down there. Maybe talk to a bunch of people down in Memphis and find out if that's the case.
Moving and getting a new arena are two different things. I think we fall into that trap too often of, well, did Golden State leave, or did they just need a new arena? And they were like, well, we're not going to do it here. We got to do it over there. And whether that was the right thing to do or not, we got to build something new somewhere. That doesn't always make sense to make it right here where exactly everything already is.
That was technically a move, but like they didn't change their name. When I'm thinking a move, I'm thinking, Vancouver to Memphis. I'm thinking, like you mentioned, Charlotte to OKC, Seattle to OK, then Seattle to OKC.
No, all that makes sense somehow or another.
Yeah, but I think once a team leaves a city, it's like then you almost create, reverse fans. I think that's something you gotta kind of keep in mind, that if you're moving, you gotta take it real seriously.
I don't want anyone to move. If Memphis needs a new stadium, or that needs to be in a better area, so be it. We can do that. But I don't even think Memphis needs to lose their franchise. All right. Anything else in the NBA? Any actual NBA you want to get into?
Not really. Not really. I watched a lot of college basketball. I did not watch very much NBA. That's kind of how it works, as well as, Lakers are on a little bit of a hot streak right now, but I just don't really trust late March, early April basketball. The tankers are really tanking. I kind of mentioned people diving in and, this being a rough Monday, where I said, I'm an NBA fan. Let's see what we got tonight. And then go look at the slate, and 10 games, and over half of them, the line is double digits. So it's like, all right, well, that doesn't mean like that team can't win, but doesn't line up for the most exciting sports night.
Well, that's fine. We'll get to it. March Madness tournament is around the corner here. It's coming. We're going to get the real good games here. Our teams are still in it. Sorry if your team's not. The bracket filled out. What do we got? 60-plus people? Who's at top right now? Who do we need to shout out?
Right now, at the top is Dave. Dave's definitive bracket. He has Houston winning, and he also has the most possible points at 179. So, Dave in the driver's seat.
Shout out to everyone that signed up. Thank you for doing that. We'll make sure to take care of the winner if you are, able to beat us. I believe we're still in the rankings here. We're on
in the mix.
We're on the front page. I don't know if I have as many possible points left, but I do still have my Final Four. So I feel pretty good about that. You still have your Final Four, so we're not burned yet. We're very much in this.
Very, very much in this. Yep.
Remind everyone to subscribe. Little column A, little column B. You can get us wherever you follow your podcast. Listen to your podcasts wherever. You can also get us on our social media page, little column A, little column B, on Instagram and Facebook. You can also follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
Anything else for the people out there?
Did you hear or did you watch any of the flag football?
No, I'm not keeping up with all this. I heard we got whooped, or the NFL guys got whooped. It's weird.
We sure did.
It's weird that there are sides on all this. I said we got whooped. Team USA won. So, right? Like, is that what the right way to say this is?
Team USA beat the NFL All-Stars. Yes, that's what happened.
Yeah. All right. So is that news?
It was a little bit of a spectacle. I watched it. It was definitely a little bit frustrating, and I'm sure it was frustrating for the NFL guys that this is still has football in the name, but this is totally different. So you could tell the flag football guys, like, this is what they do at a professional level, and they knew all of the rules, and the NFL guys did not really know all of the rules. And so I'll be interested to see how this goes as it gets closer to the Olympics.
It'll be fun to watch. That wasn't that much fun to watch. But I think actual flag football will be fun.
It was cool. It was cool seeing Brady out there.
I got mixed feelings. He's on the list. I don't know if we're going to be quite as supportive forever here. But we'll get more than that next week, because we'll be back.
Little column A, little column B.